About once or twice a year we get a game that comes out that's so unique in its own way that we just can't help but love them. Such games include Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale, and in this review's case, Stardew Valley. So let's not waste any time and hop right in. This is the Stardew Valley review. I need to start this review off by saying that my acquirement of Stardew Valley was a complete mistake. When I bought Stardew Valley, I was mainly getting it to get games for the PS4 that I had just bought, but what made it a mistake was that I had mistaken it for Starbound, the spiritual sequel to Terraria. After I found out about my very stupid mistake, I shelved Stardew Valley and started playing Arcania, a terrible game where the developers should feel terrible. After my brain was skull-raped by teleporting enemies 5 or 6 times, I decided to give Stardew Valley a try. Stardew Valley was entirely made by one dude by the name of Eric Barone, also known as Concerned Ape. It took him 4 years to develop Stardew Valley, and it was published by the London game studio Chucklefish, which the game loves to remind you every time you boot up the damn thing. Currently, Stardew Valley is still under regular development, much like other games such as Minecraft, and even though it's officially a single-player game, a multiplayer feature is expected to be added. So what exactly is going on in the world of Stardew Valley? Well, the game starts off with what appears to be your grandfather cosplaying as a sleepy Santa Claus. Oh, and he also seems to be on his deathbed.
You know, for kids!
He gives you a letter and tells you not to open it until you begin to feel like the world has hit you over the head with the business end of a Louisville slugger. Cut to an undetermined amount of time later, you find yourself in this game's version of Walmart working to the bone, which prompts the letter to be opened. Turns out your grandfather gives you his old farm located in Stardew Valley, and you move there to renew your life as a farmer outside of Pelican Town. So Stardew Valley is basically a farming simulator, but it doesn't end there. The game was inspired by other open-ended games like Animal Crossing, Terraria, and of course Minecraft, so naturally there'll be other options to keep the player busy. One of the biggest things to do in Stardew Valley is assimilate yourself in the local population. The game will have you start by introducing yourself to the neighbors and interact with them, eventually gaining respect from everyone in town. The most arduous of these tasks is probably the restoration of the community center, which has been run down for years. You can either put in the hard work and give the occupying Junimos items to restore it, or you could take the dangerously funny route and join the local Georgia market where they turn the community center into a warehouse. Either way, completing the tasks associated with the community center fixes rundown equipment in town, like the minecarts. When first arriving on your farm, you'll immediately notice that the whole stretch of land is flooded with miscellaneous crap that you'll need to clear out. And it's not as simple as taking one of your many tools and clearing the debris. You have an energy meter that you must keep an eye on. Once you've depleted it, the simple act of getting anywhere now becomes a challenge unless you either eat something or rest. In the beginning, growing and harvesting crops can also be a challenge because your basic tools are inefficient unless you manage to upgrade them. And as you level up your farming abilities, tasks that would drain your energy really quickly now become easier to do, and it also lets you craft better items for making your job easier, like sprinklers. There is also a combat feature for when you explore the 2 main caverns of the game. The caverns are full of treasure and monsters, both of which are useful for crafting, gifts, or donating to the local museum. Gifts are a pretty big deal for when it comes to getting the townsfolk to like you. And what better way to show your love and respect for someone than to expect your favorite shit from them? Materialistic bastards. But if you give the right gifts to the right lady or guy in town, you are gifted with a heart event so you can get to know that person better. Eventually you can even marry the lucky gal or guy. Or again, you could take the dangerously funny route and install mods that'll let you marry Pam. What? Godzillas need love too. If you've ever played some of the other open-ended games, then you can tell right away that Stardew Valley takes a lot of inspiration from them, and that kind of makes the game quaint. The idea of simulating life on a farm is very relaxing, and the options of how you design your farm are quite varied. The townsfolk you encounter all have a unique story to them, and they even have their own schedule that changes throughout the in-game year. And with upbeat music to accompany the journey, Stardew Valley is a very nice time sink. But there are some issues. The idea of farm life is taken very seriously, and there are designs in the game that reflect this. One such example is how it takes forever to get anywhere without a minecart or a horse. Though I like when a game encourages a slower pace, at some point it gets too slow when the gameplay begins to be impacted. You can waste a whole day walking if you're not careful, and what's worse is that your character will pass out at 2 AM sharp and potentially lose some items. So if you want to get anything done efficiently, then you better schedule everything you do on a day-to-day basis. And if you want access to the minecarts or a horse, then you better work on the community center and get plenty of materials for a stable. But good luck getting those materials if you still have the default inventory. Yeah, you can upgrade it, but having an inventory so limited will certainly hinder players on items they will likely need early on. not to mention the wasted time it takes storing and retrieving everything from chests on a default inventory. Another negative I can draw on is that the game does start off very slow, so much so that it's somewhat easy to get lost in what you're doing, which could result in mistakes on how your farm is handled. This is a game where farming is the lifeblood of your income, so if you get confused early on and start making mistakes, it will impact the money you can earn. And in a game where crops are very difficult to come by during winter without a proper plan, managing your farm will become vital. But the biggest drawback to Stardew Valley comes in the late game content. Once you've done the community center, helped the wizard, and got married and had 2 very worthless children, the game starts to slow down again. And even the town events that happen throughout the in-game year are exactly the same from year to year. So what's left to do? If you have the PC version of the game, you can get numerous mods that will allow some more game time, or you can get some inspiration from YouTubers to find something new. I recommend checking out a video from That Denver Guy for some inspiration in Stardew Valley if you're ever bored. Or once more, you could take the dangerously funny route and make a character specifically to marry and divorce everyone. And just a side note, this review takes heavy inspiration from both That Denver Guy and Dangerously Funny. Since these 2 numbskulls are unknowing sponsors for this review, be sure to check out their work with links I will provide below. Yay for free advertisement, am I right? Stardew Valley is one of those games that has a wholesome charm to it that makes it really hard to berate. Even when scripting this review, I find it difficult to speak negatively about it because much like Minecraft, the amount of effort I put into my farm always makes the reward worth it. Anything in the game that's stupidly hard to do is something that's out of the way and doesn't really impact how to play the game, but rather is more for 100% completion. Stardew Valley is a fine, nicely thought out game where the only skill requirement is free time. I would like to thank you guys for joining me for another review. Up next, I will be doing a 180 and review a big name game. So brace yourselves because next is Super Mario Odyssey. This has been Regnilla and I will see you again next time. Take care, people.